So I'm not going to lie to you guys. Our idea is quite different, and it is quite large. But you can't make big change without thinking big, I guess. So, to start off, who knows what this is? Anybody? Anybody? You? A wireless charger, yes. And on that wireless charger is the iPhone X, a device that is definitely not inferior to all Android devices. Anyways, so this came out a few months ago, and this is a great trend because you're seeing a company, Apple, one of the biggest tech companies in the world, with a valuation of, I believe it was 900 billion last time I checked, investing in all their future technologies and wiring it to wireless chargers. A year before, we had unveiled by Jeff Bezos to launch Amazon Prime Air, which is a drone delivery service which can deliver packages straight to your house. Now, while all this is happening in the tech world in Silicon Valley, halfway across the world, imagine this. A mother going out to collect water for her child. Her child had symptoms of a fever in the past week. And when she came back, she found that her child was no longer breathing. We are not saying this just to make you guys feel sad, but because we found this out and it made us feel sad. Because having little nephews of my own, I think it's just unfathomable for that to happen to a parent and to happen to thousands of parents every day. 2.4 million children die every year from preventable diseases. That means if they got the care they needed, they could have easily survived. And we launched into a case study into Cambodia. And Cambodia has an infrastructure that cannot deal with the amount of people being sick in these isolated villages with their lack of infrastructure. And here's a quote by the World Health Organization, and it's basically a very fancy way of saying that the government does not have the logistics or resources to reach these people. And so you might be thinking, that is a really big problem, and we all agree that children dying of preventable diseases is terrible. But what does that have to do with the iPhone X and the Amazon drone delivery? Well, I'm so glad you all asked. We have a great audience here today, Lucas. Yes. Well, we think these three worlds can come together. You see, in Rwanda recently, they launched a program where they delivered medicine via drone. And the program worked really well and was studied extensively for, future purposes. Now, this works really well because a lot of these desperate villages have no road access, have no infrastructure, and there's hundreds of them spread out across the country, and the government is spending millions upon millions of dollars sending very expensive doctors with medicine into the jungle to get them this medicine. And one problem we found with it is that the drones don't go very far. Currently, the Amazon drone can go about 16-kilometer radius, and so if you're outside that radius, it cannot reach you. But the thing is, if you're 17 kilometers, it can't reach you. The actual drone can travel 32 kilometers. Since the radius is how far it can travel, it has to come back to recharge. So our idea is to have wireless charging stations, just like the one Apple has, same technology, induction technology. They would fly 32 kilometers, land, and keep going to deliver the packages they need, tripling the distance drones can travel.
All right, so, we know it's quite a mouthful, and honestly, it seems like technology that's maybe sci-fi or from the future. So we're just going to briefly go over all the technology available so you guys know that it is feasible. And we've done the research and the math as well to prove not only how much energy we would need to power these things, but also how much money it would require to do it, and then what that would mean for the governments, as well as income for us for creating or providing the service. So pretty much, these are the induction plates. And when people think wireless electricity, for the most part, they think of like electrons shooting a current through the air. Now, this is feasible, but unfortunately, it isn't very prominent because it's not efficient enough. So using two coils from a very close distance, even contact, would allow up to 60% currently energy efficiency. And so the way it works is the electricity gets sent to the transmitter coil and then beamed up essentially through magnetic waves to the receiver coil. Now, the biggest problem that we have with these plates is where are we going to get the energy in third world countries? And so this is when we're talking about alternative energies. So we were looking at solar energy in particular, but it would also work for hydropower. Now, for solar electricity, we did the math, and it would require 216 square meters of solar panels. But once this tower is installed, it would be completely self-sufficient, essentially, and so it would require no human interaction whatsoever. You build it one time, and you let it sit there. So, pretty much, when we're talking about this, as well as the plates, the concept that we had discovered, or that we had sort of invented, would permit 6 drones to land on the plates all at once. Now, we would need 4 plates with a 250-watt capacity for each of the drones. So this ends up adding up to quite a bit of money, but we're going to go over that very soon.
Right. I'd just like to clarify that Curtis did the math. I saw the math and I ran away. Anyways, I like to show you guys that this technology is very real, and I have it. This is an Apple Watch, and it is completely wirelessly charged. This is the plate, and what happens is that it clicks on magnetically, charges, and then you can pull it right out. This is completely waterproof, which is pretty good for, jungles. And this is really great because since Cambodia and most of these countries are affected, these solar panels get a lot of electricity because they're near the equator, and most of these villages in need are actually close to a water source. So back to Curtis's point, when we tell people about this idea, they think this. They think super high-tech city. We're going to have like private planes that are going to land in your apartment, and you're going to have to get them and take off. But this idea is not decades into the future. In fact, it already exists. It's been proven to work in not just phones, but in some prototypes for drones as well. And so we're not thinking too far into the future. This technology is already here. It just hasn't been combined into this system.
Okay, so pretty much we were thinking of strategic placing of our drone pads in Cambodia. And so we were thinking with 50 drone pads, we'd be able to cover 25% of the entire surface of Cambodia. And pretty much we'd place them up this river because most of the large cities, which are around here, actually have built-in infrastructures. And so they don't necessarily need the drones to deliver medication. But these ones up here are where the highest rates of death are, especially in infants and children. And so this is where we want to reach out to. Now, each sort of solar-powered tower would be able to reach 8,000 square kilometers. That's quite a big number. And so we're going to get into the sort of the cost analysis is next.
Yeah, so for the cost analysis, this is a very large project, and one of these towers would cost about $100,000, and 10 of them would be $1 million, and that is a lot of money. Oh my God, I know. Did your heart just skip when I said $1 million? But we're thinking about our consumers. Our consumers is the government. They're already spending millions and millions.
Billions, actually.
Cambodia spends about $2.5 billion.
2.8.
Yeah, $2.8 billion each year on medical expenses, and this is a large part of it. And so for the government, if we say, hey, here is this technology, it will cost a few $1 million, and then it will be completely autonomous. No one needs to be at the towers to like charge them, and it will save lives.
Yeah, so we actually did the math, and up here where the doctors reach, this is the most expensive part, and that costs about 12% of their total sort of income of the almost $3 billion. And so just by installing these drone towers right here, we could be saving the government up to $400 million, which could go back into the people.
Yep. Yeah, and so it would save a lot for the government, and it is in our non-too-distant future. And we're just going to end it with this very unphotogenic picture of Bill Gates. I'm so sorry, Bill Gates. Bill Gates was in an interview, and he was asked, what do you worry about most? And he didn't say nuclear war or supervolcanoes or anything like that. He said he was worried about the spread of disease. And this chart here, this is how many people died in World War I. And this is how many people died of the Spanish flu directly
right after World War I.
And so having a system where we can quickly respond to disease and prevention of disease, we think is very important for our future. Thank you. I wasn't bowing, I was keeling over. Okay.
Great pitch, guys. That kind of blew my mind of the rechargeable drones. Have you thought about how you would fund this? I mean, there's one thing, getting the government to fund it, but you have to get prototypes out there and show it works as well. Yeah.
So the prototypes, to get out of the prototypes, we contacted a few people like Solar City and Ybotic. Solar City, unfortunately, has not gotten back to us, but Ybotic is basically a company that specializes in induction wireless charging, and they said they would love to send us a prototype and help us with it if we gave them the cost. Now, so your question was asking where would we get the money to prototype it? Well, there are a lot of foundations like the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation that would be interested in things like this. So a lot of NGOs, charities, but as well as this is like, don't think of only diseases, even though that's our main point. Think larger. Think like the internet. That connected information with a lot of people. This connects sort of physical objects with many people. Creating
your towers could be transmitter towers.
Yeah, kind of like cellular towers in a way. And so you can implement that into the city. And so delivery mechanisms like FedEx and Uber Eats, they would be interested as well. And so you could have this implemented in urban areas.
So this is fantastic, very big picture. So if you're looking at getting the medicine out there, what is the first step that you see in terms of diagnosing what it is, knowing what the medicines are? Because this sounds to me like it's going to be sort of self-administered, autonomous medical care. So maybe you can just walk me through how you get to knowing what goes out in the drone, etc.
Anyways, basically, the drones can also carry sort of pamphlets and informational guides to help the locals, but it's not just going to be like a drone falls out of the sky one day and they're like, oh, look at that. We're going to have doctors in there who will teach the locals how to administer the medicine, but after that, you don't need them anymore because they know and they'll have the
socialization program, and then this is replenishing.
And then they don't need to come back.
Thanks, guys. I particularly like the international development angle as, servicing the globally sort of underserviced. That's a particular interest area of mine. So, that aligns with my passion as well. So that's why I'm going to push a little bit further and challenge you guys a little bit. What is proprietary here in this process? Is it the technology itself? Is it, the induction charging? Is it the entire end-to-end process of drones plus renewable sources of power plus wireless charging plus delivering of meds? Like, what is your core that if you were to say this is what we build, this is what we have, how would you describe that?
Oh, okay. I guess this was also mine. So what's proprietary here is that induction charging already exists and drone technology already exists. So what would be proprietary would be our system of delivery. And currently, the charging stations for drones are actually very small, thin platforms that can only charge drones for surveillance pieces. And cameras aren't very heavy. Our system would be proprietary because it would be a much larger system. It'd be self-sustained, which to our knowledge hasn't been invented yet, or at least created, normalized. That's the word. And so ours would be both using renewable energy sources that are independent from outside energy sources, and also much larger to charge the battery capacity of delivery drones.
Great, thank you.
Oh.